Okay, I'm going to start off by saying I hope you like the shirt. David chose it for me on the last field visit that we had to Sierra Leone. He was going to buy a similar one to bring home, but I said it might not work, so it's just me who's got one. I didn't think it suited me. I don't know whether that was a reflection on my character or what David thought of me, but there we go.
There is one for the Vice Chancellor as well.
Question, who's already actually signed up for the book? Hands up. Right, okay, we're going to lock the door in a minute. You can see this guy here sitting in the middle. This is a Greek hitman. He's going to go round either now or later and ask politely those of you who have not bought one if you'd like to. If you prefer to go out with your kneecaps, it might be a very good idea. Okay, I've been asked to talk about the book. I did have about 365 pages of notes which I was going to read out. So that's been carefully looked at by Alan, and I've now got 2. He thought the rest was, well, not quite so appropriate. So I'm going to stick to what's still left, and I hope that there's no thunderbolt coming down to put me right if I get it a bit wrong. So here we go. Economic Management of Marine Living Resources, a practical introduction. Rationale. Basic purpose of the book. I think it's fair to say that fisheries involves multidisciplinary analysis. However, different disciplines, economics, management, science, do share common ground. And that's really what David's tried to bring out in this book. I think it's fair to say that this book is the product of a long and distinguished career in teaching and research, interrupted somewhat by me, asking silly questions about fisheries economics at the time. But both teaching and research have helped to determine its final content and format. The postgraduate certificate in fisheries economics, which some of you like Kate did, I was going to say many years ago, but Kate would probably hit me if I said that. A couple of years ago. Yeah. And the subsequent MSc in fisheries developed training for those without a formal economic background, just to allow them to understand the contribution economics can make to fisheries management, although sometimes you would doubt it has from what Alan was saying earlier. However, this book distills the essence of that fisheries economics programme, the utilisation of theory, method and evidence to address practical issues. Few books, I would argue, are as practical as this. And that's quite a shame. There are, perhaps indeed too few students taking natural resource economics courses that would not benefit from reading this book. And it must be said, a few instructors too. I won't mention their names. Yeah? But its real value lies not in preaching to the converted, but rather in reaching out to those who wish to develop as multidisciplinary practitioners. This book gives them, in a sense, a means to not only develop new skills, but to practice them by using fairly trusted data sets. They will enjoy working with these materials and thus gain an understanding and respect for economic analysis in the process. Moving on, another slide. The book illustrates, I think, quite well what questions economists are asking in this complex field. Why they ask them, what they conclude, and also the implications of those answers. Because the prose is a model of clarity, I think David was a very fine stylist in this respect, the book immediately captures the reader's confidence, and it's a bit like fishing. It doesn't seem to let it go, rather like a fish when you go on the rod. Simple models are preferred to more complex approaches, and this really reflects David's approach to teaching, learning and research. Not all questions can be answered using relatively simple models, such as supply and demand, but many can be. Second page. Here you go. The use of the basic Gordon-Schaefer bioeconomic model, a supply and demand diagram, or a simple appraisal framework explains what economists do and why, and what can be learned from the analysis. The text integrates clear examples that were exhaustively tested, as Kate could verify, on Portsmouth undergraduates and postgraduate students. The appendix, for example, on estimating resource rent makes an abstract concept incredibly observable and tangible. The example suggests, for example, that the Maldives, would you believe, foregoes some $50 million annually in lost resource rent. And once you start thinking of numbers of this magnitude, it's pretty difficult to think of anything else. Content. There are 7 main chapters in the book, but most of you wouldn't know that because you haven't yet signed up to buy it. 2 relating to the problems in management and conservation, and the other 5 are devoted to collecting and analysing socioeconomic data within the fisheries or marine economics field. Each is, in a sense, a self-contained lecture. You get diagrams, graphs, tables, and the occasional equation. But you had to know David if you wanted the jokes that went with it. Reading these chapters and working on examples given will not make the reader a great economist, but it will enable them to interrogate a great deal of the literature and give them pretty firm ideas as to how to conduct their own research projects. In this respect, it's relatively easy to foresee a long future for this book on many bookshelves. Moreover, I would say this volume also lays down a challenge for practitioners and educators in the field of marine resource economics. This is an excellent model. Learn from it, imitate it, and continue the work of helping scholars to develop their own engagement with economic research in the marine resource field. Quote from Professor James Young. This is Jimmy Young, not the one you listen to on the radio, Ashraf. Yeah? Jimmy Young, as you can see, is very eloquent, or offers a very eloquent testimony to this book. He, in a sense, may not be an impartial observer as he works in the fisheries field, but that doesn't mean he's not right. Examine it for yourselves, but buy it first. Okay, thank you.